Hi, everyone, and welcome back to episode 5 of the Afromind podcast. We are today is what 3rd May. We are recording for 4th May. So May
Hmm.
is Mental Health Awareness Month, so we figured it would be great to get the month started with conversations about
Hmm.
mental health, the myths about mental health, why this sort of awareness is important to begin with, and what you can do when you yourself are dealing with a mental health issue or somebody that you know and care about is dealing with a mental health issue. Sounds good?
Yeah.
All right. So, yep, for anybody who's new here, please remember to hit the subscribe and then go watch some of the other videos, both on this podcast and on Alice's YouTube page as a whole. It's a free resource. It's a free resource when it comes to building your own mental health, building your own resilience in a way that doesn't feel, or I feel like sometimes when, as a community, when we talk about mental health, it feels very abstract and it feels like
Yeah.
other people's problems. But when it comes
Hmm.
to your page, especially, and some of our conversations, it feels more grounded and more realistic,
Hmm.
because it's practical. Like for
Yeah.
example, your resilience in real time series is like stuff that people are probably currently dealing with. So yeah,
Hmm.
hit the subscribe button, like, comment, and I hope we
Yeah.
hope you enjoyed this episode.
Yeah.
All right. Any initial remarks about mental health awareness and especially in relation to our communities as Ghanaians and as Africans?
Um, it's quiet, right? We don't, it's not something that we celebrate. So there isn't a lot of
Mhm.
information about it unless you have seen any, because I haven't seen anything, not
Yeah.
even from the government of Ghana, Ministry of Health,
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Yeah,
National
definitely,
Staff.
definitely not on that level.
Yeah.
I think though that as a community, we're definitely doing better than historically. That's for sure.
Hmm.
Right? I think as a community, we're talking about mental health a whole lot more than we have in the
Okay.
past. So that's always a good
Yeah.
thing. Um,
Hmm.
but there are always the people who almost pull us back, because I feel like sometimes when you bring a mental health angle to a situation, people make it sound like also some so like that you are encouraging foolishness or like you are,
Oh, yeah.
you
Like
understand?
it's justification for bad behavior. Like,
Exactly, right.
okay.
So what do you
Yeah.
have to say to that? Like if we explain somebody's behavior that maybe might have a connection to trauma or it might be a reaction to
Hmm.
certain mental health concerns, is that an excuse? Is that a justification? Like help folks maybe understand better what we do.
It's not, right? It doesn't excuse them. Because even in the court of law, people who, let's say, some people will say, oh, they are evading sentencing because of mental health issues, they are still sent into like a psychiatry facility. So it's
Facility.
not like they are left to go out there in the world and do whatever they like. They are
Mhm.
still held accountable or they are given the services that they need. So they are not left to be roaming free. So I think that's what we think about it. And for me, like being a researcher and being a therapist, it's always like there is always something underneath the way we behave, right?
Yeah.
Good or bad. There is
Mm.
a reason why we are who we are. So sometimes maybe to the outside person, it could be like, oh, maybe I was so kwasi, so you're excusing people. But let's say for somebody who has gone through their whole life and they've been told that you are lazy, and then maybe at the age of 30, they see a professional and the professional is like, oh, you have depression. It's not that you are lazy, like that impact in of its own, it takes a weight off of them, like, oh wow, so I'm not lazy or I'm not worthless, or it's not that I am a failure, but actually there is something going on that
Mhm.
now I can take the steps.
Mhm.
I
Right.
think that's the other part that people miss, that now there are steps for me. So it's not like I'm only saying, oh, maybe this person is doing this maybe because they experience neglect during their childhood and that's it, right?
Mhm.
But if they come to therapy and we uncover that, we are like, okay, now how can you change? So that's still holding the person accountable and also giving them the skills and the things that they need to make the correction,
Yeah.
instead of shaming them or like what we do, shaming them
Yeah.
or insulting them.
with
Then
no
we don't see
recourse
anything.
for progress.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking
Yeah.
about a certain person who is trending in the Ghanaian, space right now for for doing favors for other people and then coming out to be effectively telling, I did this for you, I did this for you, I did this for you, right? When I sit back and I look at that person, my thought process is this is somebody who feels like they've always had to give to deserve love, right?
You believe them?
Yeah, yeah. No, I believe, I mean, some of them. I believe that this is somebody
They
who,
haven't slept. You know that, right?
oh, really?
They
Anyway,
haven't
but,
slept in about a week.
oh,
They are on
okay.
live every day.
Right. Let's let me pull it back and get to my point. I didn't know all of that just but when I'm talking about the basic idea of kind of
Yeah.
calling people out and say I did this for you,
Yeah.
you didn't do anything for
Yeah.
me. I feel like there's a
Yeah.
lot of a potential history
About
of feeling like
mhm.
they have to do certain things to deserve love, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
and
Yeah.
and also feeling like when in fact every time when I've had to do this, I get what I should get. So the
Hmm.
idea of I did something for you and you just assume that it was out of the goodness of my heart that you didn't owe me anything back feels strange to them,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Now when I explain that and probably be that's why, this person is disappointed that she put in all of this support for a certain musician, but the musician couldn't even bother to tell his fan that, yo, stop worrying, this person. It's like, wait, it means that all of the love that I was showing you, you didn't love me back, right?
Hmm.
Because
But
to
what if I
them,
didn't ask you?
you understand? So that's what I'm saying. If all of this person's history is love is a give and take, because I've always had to give to even remotely get something back,
Hmm.
that's us maybe explaining that as to the reason why she may be acting that way isn't excusing why she's acting that way, right?
Yeah.
Because it is us
Hmm.
admitting that we get why she may be doing that way. It's not healthy, right? But
Yeah.
that probably is a background to why she's doing that way. And hence,
Hmm.
something like therapy can help for her to maybe get comfortable in her in that's one of the things that you say, inherent value, like to get
Yeah.
comfortable in the fact that you're inherently valuable as a human, as a friend, as a
Yeah.
sibling, as a fan.
Hmm.
You don't have to
Hmm.
keep doing all of these things to get anything back, right? Because then they're always going to
Exactly.
tell you, I didn't send you, I didn't ask you. You
Hmm.
understand? And if you also, even if you give, if it's with the premise of I'm giving out of my heart, then it limits the
Hmm.
disappointment that comes from it because now you don't expect anything from anybody, But
Exactly.
when we are able to put context behind some of that behavior, I think we have a better chance of actually hearing them because they go, you know what? That's exactly what my life was like, right? I
Hmm.
always had to
Hmm.
perform to get love. And when I did perform, in
Hmm.
fact, I got love. So I
Hmm.
don't get why I am performing for these people and they don't love
Yeah.
me.
Hmm. That
You
yeah, that
understand?
makes sense.
You
Yeah.
understand? Yeah. So sometimes we explain things to people not because we're excusing it, right? But it's because
Hmm.
we're putting a background to what likely is going on. And that is usually,
Yeah.
like you said, to help them move forward. So yes, we don't talk about mental health awareness just to excuse people, but instead to explain behavior like we are as mental health professionals, right? Yeah. I guess the next thing for us to talk about will be the the myths that we have as a community, the things that we say about mental illness that many people have taken in, they think it's true, right?
Hmm.
If you think about
Hmm.
something like depression and anxiety, and I know you
Yeah.
mentioned that they're not just lazy, right?
Hmm.
It's you hear things like, "Are you this small thing and you are depressed? Are you pa
Yeah.
Ghana boy pa or Ghana girl pa? You are
Yeah.
depressed over this
You
small
have
thing,
food to eat.
right?"
You have
Hmm.
everything. Yeah.
Almost like depression I feel like it's two myths in one. Depression is a rich people problem. Like you have to be
Hmm.
almost like some of us can't afford to be depressed, right? So
Hmm.
tell us a little bit more. Is you know is depression? I mean, of course, I know depression is not a rich people problem, and yeah. So give us a little bit more, like those myths
Hmm.
that people hold. Debunk
Yeah.
that myth for us.
So the myth is also cultural, right? So it's going to be culturally specific or geographically specific that maybe across Africa we may have some common myth, but maybe within Ghana there may be a certain myth, within Nigeria there may be a certain myth that is specific to the region. So like we talked about the laziness. That's one part of it. I think the big part of it in Ghana is the religiosity of things.
Yeah.
And even sometimes you see it on social media, where it's like, if you just put your faith in God, you have nothing to be anxious about, right? I mean, in a way that can make some sense, right? If
Right.
maybe your anxiety is from external things around you, right? That of course we all have to balance. Sometimes in that if you put your trust in God, you have nothing to worry about. I think people don't go ahead to explain it, that there is so much about life that we don't have control over.
Over. Mm-hmm.
So we talk about letting things go. For some people, just the act or the visualization of I am letting go and giving it to God, that gives them comfort than just letting it go, because they're like, okay, if I let it go, where is it going to?
Mm-hmm.
Or who, or sometimes we could do journaling, journal all the things you don't have control over, and maybe put it somewhere or burn it, or so that you take it out of your mind. So that's, it's it simplifies complex things versus if your depression is really biological or your anxiety is biological, it doesn't mean that you don't have faith in God. So let's say somebody who is having like a chemical imbalance and they are being told, put your faith in God, put your faith in God. Do you know what, like, the added pressure for
Mm-hmm.
somebody to be in depression, and now they are also thinking about, oh, I'm not believing in God enough, or I am not a good Christian, or I'm not praying enough, or I am not doing this enough, and that becomes like a hamster wheel where they're just going versus
Mm-hmm.
maybe, even if like people who do Christian counseling, even if you're going to do that, it'll be like, okay, God created us, He made our biology, and sometimes he give us more things than we need. And sometimes you may need maybe medicine to balance it out. Or God created us. He gave therapists and doctors the knowledge to take care of all of us. He gave each one of us our skills and our talent to help us be in community with
Each
each
other.
other versus dismissing psychologists or mental health. I think that's why I always say the two can go hand in hand. If you go to seminary and you go to a master's program, they teach you a little bit of human psychology, they teach you a little bit of counseling, so you can have that idea versus the ones who were called by God in their bedroom. That's a
Mm-hmm.
different kind of story. So there is that myth, it's a punishment, it's a curse, maybe your family has been cursed. That's why if we are talking about genetic mental health issues, that's why maybe your family is like this. Maybe you are pampering your child too much, or you are overindulging them, or you're giving them too much things, and then it could also look like spiritual bypassing, forgive and forget.
Right.
We say that a lot. Do not let the sun go down on your anger, when it's like, okay, so the sun is not going to go down on my anger, but what do I do with it though?
Right. Yeah. Like the person that I need to maybe process this with isn't willing to talk about it, but I
Hmm.
I'm not allowed to let the sun go down on my anger. So now it's
Yeah.
like it's boiling up and I feel almost like I need to suppress it. And
Yeah.
that's what typically happens. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because so I think that the religion part of it becomes very huge because I think more people understand the way to connect physical health and religion, but we haven't been
Hmm.
able to do that with mental health. Right. Because if
Hmm.
somebody has a headache, yeah, they may go to church and ask for the pastor for prayer. But if they can afford it,
Hmm.
then they would still go to a doctor or they still go to pharmacy to find
Hmm.
something for their headache. Right. But then when it
Hmm.
comes to mental health, it's almost as though the prayer should do it all, or
Yeah.
like they don't feel the need to connect it to a
Hmm.
therapist as well. And
Yeah.
I do wish more people would do that. And hopefully too, when pastors preach and they touch on some of these mental health things. I mean, when they preach, I hope they touch on mental health things. And when they do, to remind people the need to combine prayer
Yeah.
and seeking
Okay.
professional services. Yeah.
Yeah. And mental health professionals are also very educated. They are also one of the most educated professionals as well. So it's not like they are just sitting somewhere making up things from thin air that's not backed by research or data or
Hmm.
anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, so one of the myths I think is relatively common even in the kind of the general black space is the idea that it's a white people problem. Mental illness is a white people problem, or
Yeah.
in
Hmm.
places like Ghana that it's a rich people problem, almost like we don't have the
Hmm.
luxury to be mentally
Hmm.
ill, right? Open
Hmm.
that up a little bit for us because I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure that's not accurate.
Yeah. So, that's the thing. Whatever you do, people will talk, right? So, in Ghana, they will say, oh, if you're poor, you can be depressed. But then if you are rich and you are depressed, then it's also like you have everything. So what are
Why are
you
you
also
depressed?
depressed about, right? Um, then the same thing, black people cannot be depressed. So then if white people are depressed, then it's like, oh, you people, it's not depression, you're just pampering your children. Or so it's like whatever you do, we just don't want to acknowledge it. But we make up these excuses. So mental health is not like race specific, or the
It is.
way that maybe we talk about it, right? If people are saying, okay, maybe the language or the DSM-5 isn't expansive enough, right? Or it's not culturally expansive to accommodate how
Mhm.
maybe we as Ghanaians we talk about
Mental
depression and
illness.
all those things. I will get it, right? But then that also means that we also have to come up with our own diagnostic criteria as
Right.
well that captures our experience, right? Because um, you know, sometimes even with depression, sometimes people will say, "Oh, akola with me ba with your sugu ni mu," and I say, "Me ba with your nyenye," and I say,
Mhm.
"Akola with your dad and I say, "Oh, ye din," right? And even sometimes with anxiety, sometimes people will say, "Oh, I am me ho tete me," and I say, "Me ho woso ne we ni ade me ntumi ntena ase din, and I me kwada kra enye ye ne obeka say bibi gyina me so ne
Mhm.
we ni like we are
Yeah, they'll
we
say
are
things like
deep."
me dream be brave, me dream, I mean to be
Exactly.
that.
Madrin aye pii, right? And I said, oh, when you make kasakra, madrin ni how, madrin baby a madrin namuno. So maybe something coming ahead. Oh, maybe a Tuesday me to kwan you na madrin dana madrin. Like we experience those experiences,
Mhm.
but you cannot tell me that students who are going to take tests in Africa don't get nervous or some of them
Or
are
text
not anxious,
anxiety. Mhm.
right? That sometimes we will have, like in secondary school, we'll have some of our classmates who will be sick before a test. They'll have stomach ache, they'll have headache. Again, like those are all like if by that time we have that knowledge, we could be like, oh hey, this is anxiety. So maybe teaching them breathing skills and those things. But we didn't have
Have
that.
one.
So it's there. Maybe the language that we use that's different. And then when it comes to mental health, also there are things that could be risk factors, and then there are things that could be protective
Check the
factors,
factors.
right? So the more protective factors you have, your risk goes down. It doesn't mean that you are not going to experience it, but it means your
Mhm.
risk goes down. Or even if that's why I like talking about resilience, that even if something happens, you can find way to work it through, right? You
Yeah.
can find ways to work it through. Like, let's say something happens to you for the first time, you were able to process it, you're able to get what you need out of it, you're able to build some skills for yourself. If that thing happens again, of course you're going to be sad, but then you have something to fall back on. Oh, this happened before,
Hmm.
and maybe I was sad for a week. So I'm probably going to be sad for a week, and then I'll be okay. Or this happened before, and this is how I went through it. So I am going to do similar things to get through it. Right. So it doesn't negate the stress. But so things like, of course, poverty can be a risk factor because
Hmm.
Financial stress is real.
Yeah.
Um, Having money in the world that we live in the capitalist world, that's how you get your basic
Needs met.
needs at the bottom, yeah, of the pyramid met. So it means if you don't have that, then you're going to be stressed. So that's real, right? And of course, we can also acknowledge that having money, you can get the medication, you can get the therapy. However, that also doesn't mean that life doesn't happen.
So yeah.
That
Yeah.
also doesn't mean that biology is not there, right? The same, like when we talk about the day-to-day stresses that's like normal for most of us. You lose a job, you lose a family member, things happen, you're stuck in traffic, you do this, you do this, you're listening to the news. Those things we all
Experience.
experience it. It doesn't happen to only the rich, it doesn't happen to only the poor. But let's say if it happens to the poor person, maybe their first thought will be, ah, minisika when I win so assign ACBM.
Mm-hmm.
Versus if it happens to maybe a rich person, they could be like, okay, how do I solve this? Or some of
Mm-hmm.
them, you could have like maybe a doctor on call, or you could have a lawyer, like you could have the resources. You'd be like, okay, maybe this is something that I should call an accountant, or this is something I should call a lawyer. This is something I should call a mechanic. This is something that I should do this. So it's not a rich person thing, or
Yeah.
it's not a poor person thing.
Mhm.
It's a human
Anybody. It's a human experience, and
child.
anybody can be
Yeah.
dealing with those. Especially I think that the biological aspect of it almost levels it for everyone, right? I think the fact that
Mhm.
there's so much biology or biochemical nature to it means that
Yeah.
on the surface, the person might look like everything is good. Like you haven't lost
Yeah.
anybody, you have a good job, you have a this, right? But then
Mhm.
the person might be depressed and you're wondering like why? Well, because there is biology to it and
Yeah.
that you don't know,
Right.
right? So
Yeah. Your
it's
serotonin levels could be down. Those, yeah.
yeah.
So,
So yes, to anybody who is dealing with a mental health issue, please don't feel like you have to just snap out of it because other people have worse experiences, right? We
mhm.
are very individual. Yes, there are some things that maybe help you by way of protective factors, such as if
Mhm.
you have money, if you have a good job, if you have supportive family,
Mhm.
that's good. But also, if your biological and genetics aspect of it are risk factors because there's a history of depression in your family, your own
Mhm.
serotonin and dopamine levels are significantly low and stuff like that, that means that you
Mhm.
are going to deal with depression to a certain level, right? So
Mhm. Mhm.
ultimately, when you are dealing with stuff like that, please seek support.
Mhm.
If you have access to a therapist, or at the very least, I think many people have access to a doctor, a primary care
Yeah.
doctor, right? So at
Mhm.
the very least,
Mhm.
start talking to this person
That's where to start
who
from.
who
Yeah.
would then give you a referral to where you need to go,
Mhm.
And I think, to
Mhm.
be honest, everywhere where you are, if you're in Ghana, if you are in other African countries, I think it's always a good idea to start talking to your doctor. Like,
Yeah.
hey, doctor,
I
I'm
think,
dealing with this and this and this, and
yeah.
they can help
But
you
in
find
Ghana,
someone
most people go to the pharmacy, and I don't know how many pharmacists have that.
that knowledge and training.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so I guess what I'm saying is they should. Like if you've been dealing with some of these things for a while, don't keep
Mhm.
chalking it up to something that you can just go get paracetamol from the
Yeah.
pharmacist, right?
Mhm.
Go talk to
Mhm.
your doctor, like, hey doc, I've been struggling with
Yeah.
this for a while.
Mhm.
What's
Mhm.
up? Like the doctor can maybe do some tests to rule out physical
Yeah.
health things and
Mhm.
then say, okay, what you're describing sounds like, chronic anxiety. Go
Yeah.
talk to a therapist. I think these days, at least the big ones, many places have a mental health
Yeah. The
department,
private
you know.
hospitals,
Yeah.
37 has a wellness center.
Yeah.
So that's
So,
their therapy unit. Yeah.
mm. And for those of you who live, especially here in the US, I think for many people, your health insurance probably has a mental health aspect to
Mhm.
it. So
Yeah.
it may be expensive, yes, but it's an investment, right? It's something that you need to put money
Mhm.
towards to take care of your mental health because if you
Yeah.
don't take it, one, I think because you're worried you're going to spend money, you continue to deal with mental health issues like depression, anxiety without seeking help. It just limits your quality of life, period.
Yeah.
And if you don't take care to it, it will begin to have physical manifestations, you
Mhm.
know. Like you want to save money, and then before you know it's like you're actually almost physically sick that you have to lose
You
work.
can't even go
Then
to work.
and then
Yeah.
now it's like the money you try to save, you are now losing it because you're not going to work, So
Yeah.
please, please, please seek help, seek support. And now it's a nice segue into the next conversation about the fact that if I go to see a therapist, I mean, I know we all know that it doesn't mean I'm weak, right? But I wonder where people get that idea from that somebody
Yeah.
who has anxiety or depression is a weak person. Like
Yeah.
all you have to do is get up and go to the gym and work out a little bit. What do you mean
Yeah.
you are depressed? Like, I mean, I don't have a question here, but
Or
I'm
maybe you can
wondering.
speak from it. You can speak from a man's perspective.
Mhm, mhm.
Because
No,
I think, I, like women, African women, we have our own struggles, but I think African men also have this unique
yeah.
approach to it that they don't even go to the doctor. I mean, general health care, they
Mhm.
don't
They
do
don't
it.
even do that. Yeah.
So, yeah. So maybe you can speak
Okay.
more to that.
I
Yeah.
I honestly don't get the parts where we have been socialized to frame that as a weakness. You understand? Especially for
Hmm.
the people that in fact seek for help. Because I promise you, I feel like
Hmm.
I honestly do believe that anybody in this world can decide to take care of something on their own. Right? Because
Yeah.
that doesn't say anything about whether they will succeed at it. Right? If I'm
Hmm.
dealing with something and I say, oh nah, I'll just figure this out. Anybody can make that decision. Anybody can try. They may
Yeah.
fail, they may succeed, but nobody knows they were even doing that, right? So I think
Yeah.
almost everybody knows how to figure things out on their own. It's asking for
Hmm.
help that's hard, right? Because it
Yeah.
requires you to be emotionally vulnerable. It requires you to put yourself
Hmm.
out there for somebody to say no, right? Many times we attribute that to power. Like if you ask somebody for something, then now they feel like you owe them one. Like so it requires a lot for
Yeah.
you to ask for help. So I don't see how the person who instead asks for help, which is the one that most people don't do,
Yeah.
right, is instead the weak
Like you
person.
are the exception.
Right? Because the thing that you people are doing that you think makes you strong, I could do it if I wanted to. It's not that hard
Hmm.
to try to hold it in and figure it out on your own. It's not that hard,
Yeah.
right? So the person who instead puts themselves out there, how is that person the weak one? You understand? Like it's the part where it does, I mean, I get it, but
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense to me. Like
It
me,
doesn't.
I the one who is using more of my skill sets,
Hmm.
right? I cannot possibly be the weak one. I mean, I don't think you are weak either if you consistently decide to do it yourself because that's how you've been
Yeah.
raised. That's the only way you know how to do things. But the person who
Yeah.
is
And
actually putting themselves out there,
is there anything like even weak when we are describing people or
people.
how like
Mhm.
our different experiences? Yeah. So.
Yeah, yeah. These are all, I mean, language. I think language that doesn't help, but we see it so often, especially in our spaces, because people think, y- again, like there's so many people who feel like they can either shame or talk down to you for you to for progress, right?
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
don't know I don't know if you saw this. I think I was talking about it on my live. This woman who confronted her father, and they did a small interview. You know,
Oh, is
Afariwa,
it Afar?
yeah,
Afar?
Afariwa,
Okay.
yeah. I saw
Yeah.
just about 30 seconds of that video, right? But in the comment section, because she was crying, she was in tears when she was describing how her experiences
Hmm.
growing up. Somebody has written under, oh, that's just a weak mindset, or like we have a weak generation or something like that. Like, what do you think saying that is supposed to do for a very while or anybody who's listening? Like,
Hmm.
is that going to make the
Hmm.
person not be weak? Like, you
Yeah.
understand? Like
Like
when you say
we
such
don't
things,
we, our way of supporting people looks. I think people, a lot of us grew up with that tough love, and so we think that's it, like tough love, right?
mm,
I love you, that's why I'm saying something to hurt you. I love you, that's why I'm saying you are fat so that you would lose
you go
weight.
to the gym, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I love you, that's why I'm trying to break you down. And then it doesn't, it like you are not really building me up or giving me even the skills. You are rather breaking me down and leaving me there.
right? They'll break you down, and really, ultimately, you're going to be the one that built yourself up. And when you build yourself up, they will say, you see, if I didn't break you down, you wouldn't have built
Exactly.
yourself up to this level. It's like you are who you are because of what I did to you. Like,
Yeah.
no, no. I
Hmm.
think the man actually in that interview, I mean, again, this is a little that
Yeah.
I watched. The man
He
actually
said
said
that.
that. He said, you see where you are now? It's like, no, I'm telling
Exactly.
you about all of the
Yeah.
hurts. And you're saying almost like I am who I am now because of the trauma you took me
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
Like, anyway, but I think yeah, as a community, we all have to do better with support because the shaming or the talking down, it doesn't help. If really your goal is to help the people around you be better, the shaming does not help. Like there is no evidence
Hmm.
whatsoever. And even if you take our individual personal lives, if you take 10 situations, maybe two, it's two people that when you talk down on and break them down, they will build themselves back up, but it won't be because of what you did. Sometimes it's
Hmm.
as almost like a revenge motive. They'll be like,
Yeah.
oh, you know what? I will show you. Like, I'll build myself up to show you, like,
Yeah.
you didn't deserve me or what you did was BS, right?
And they might not want to talk to you anymore.
You lose your relationship
Yeah.
all for what? Because so you can say you were right. I don't know. I don't get it. I think kindness and empathy is a lot more useful,
Hmm.
especially if you're working with you're telling yourself that you care about the person. That's why you're telling them the truth. You understand? So, for example, like if you want to help your friend lose weight, and if you call them fat because you're thinking that if you call them fat, it will encourage them to go to the gym, right? I can promise you right now, if 10 people do that, maybe it's one person who will be encouraged to go to the gym. The nine people will be even more down by discouraged. And when they're
Hmm.
discouraged and they're down, they will resort to things like food as a comfort. They would actually be
Yeah.
depressed and they will not be encouraged to go to the gym. So if you really
Yeah.
care about them, the talking down, the name calling, the shaming is not what does it.
Yeah.
So let's limit those things. And if anything, it's building routines with them, right? Because also I think sometimes we lose the sight, and we're just talking about biology when it comes to mental health. Sometimes we lose the sight of the impact of things like biology in weight. You understand?
Yeah.
Because
In a
you
lot of, yeah.
there may be two people with the same behavior strategies and eating habits. One person will be 15, 30 pounds bigger than the other because
Hmm.
biology plays a significant role in
Yeah.
how we pick up weight. So sometimes it's important to at the very least acknowledge all of this background and then encourage the person if really it's somebody you care about. But if you
Hmm.
just want to call people names, then
Yeah.
own up to who you are as a bully and don't
Exactly.
shroud it
But
in.
yeah. Who are you also to think that you love me more than I love me, and you know best for me more than I know best for
Hmm.
me, right?
I have a
What
mirror.
if the way that I am, I'm really, really happy with it and I'm healthy? There's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm. Oh, yeah. Many people in our space don't believe in a healthy, heavier weight, right?
Hmm.
Like if your BMI is beyond that normal range and you're anywhere into overweight, nobody they don't believe that you could possibly still be healthy and that you should
Hmm.
be happy about it. You know,
Hmm.
one of the arguments that I've heard is that if we keep doing that body positivity thing, that everybody else will let themselves go. Like, how are you drawing? How are you drawing that
Focus on your
connection?
body. Focus.
How are you drawing that connection about, if you actually care about the person sitting in front of you,
Hmm.
I can tell you right now, shaming and calling them names isn't anything that helps. So please be kind, and work with your friends and come from a place of empathy and motivation than shaming and name calling because breaking somebody down to try to build them up doesn't work.
Yes, it has never worked. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, and also, one thing, I think I saw a video that you made about somebody called Kofi. I don't know too much of the context. I saw a brief
Hmm.
video about it. But I also think that as a community, almost all of our empathy goes out the window when we think we don't agree with what a person does
Yeah.
or did or their lifestyle,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Because I mean, it's a conversation for another day. But of course, as a community like Ghana, many people have a problem with the LGBTQIA community. But then they feel like because we don't agree with their way of life, that we have every reason to
Exactly. To
literally
be
wish them
the
dead.
most despicable, like people's true character comes out.
You understand? Because you can't tell me you're a
Mhm.
kind person when you are
Mhm.
in the comment section wishing somebody death.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know what somebody has to do for me to outwardly go into a comment section to write,
Yeah.
"You should die."
Mhm.
You understand? Especially for somebody who
Or
has
kill
done nothing
yourself.
to
Or,
me.
yeah.
You know. So I think as a community, we all have to do better. We have to hold ourselves more accountable for our actions and be kinder with each other. Yeah, especially in this mental health awareness month, because it's not just about our mental health. Our actions do affect other
Mhm.
people's
Other
mental health
people.
as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that I recognize that sort of we can put it on us, like you can put it on somebody how somebody else's mental health is, right?
Yeah.
But we also have to recognize that in fact the things that we say in those comment sections do in
Mhm.
fact affect how
Yeah.
other people feel and live their lives. Yeah.
Because of course we cannot put it on other people, but like you said, right? If I say I am a good person, right, and my values are, oh, I want to respect everybody, I want to be a good human being in the world,
Mhm.
and I go on somebody's comment session, I'm not really being that. If I say I care about my own mental health and I'm going to take care of my mental health and I'm going to take mental health serious, and I go under somebody's comment section to type those things, I don't.
Mhm.
I'm not that person,
Yeah.
right? So if again it goes back to, if you're really taking care of your mental health, you would also understand that life is hard for everybody. Like you will understand that, like they said, we are all going through it. So you would have more empathy for another person. Like, hey, I know life is hard. Hey, I know what my Bible says, but I'm here for you.
Hmm.
You don't deserve to die. You deserve to be here.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it goes back to just people being hypocrites, right? But however, they want empathy from you.
They want unconditional kindness, right?
Yeah.
Like we go around preaching kindness and love and unconditional blah blah blah. But then the moment there's a condition that we don't appreciate, like
Mm-hmm.
all of our kindness and our empathy go out the window. You understand?
Goes out.
Like
Yeah.
what is
Like judging
empathy if
women.
it's yeah, what's empathy if it's only for the people you agree with? Is it really empathy? Like
Exactly.
if somebody does something you agree with and because of that you love them, is it I mean it's love too, but it's like where is that
That's the easiest way to show
to show
empathy,
love,
though.
right? Like where is
Yeah.
that I'm still going to be kind even when
Mm-hmm.
I don't like what you did, even when I'm upset with you, even when I don't agree with how you went about things. Like I can still be
Yeah.
kind, you know. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a nice segue into how we can help other people take care of their mental health, help other people take care of their mental health. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? Because really, like our kindness could be the difference between somebody having a great
Exactly.
day and
Yeah.
somebody having a bad day, right? So we all have
Mm-hmm.
to do a better job of being kind with each other. Now, before we talk
Mm-hmm.
about how folks can take care of their own mental health, what, how can somebody approach a conversation when they think their friend, family member, even
Mm-hmm.
partner is maybe depressed or anxious? Like how, because
Mm-hmm.
I think in our community, the moment you mention yo, I think you're depressed. You should probably go see a therapist. It's like it's an insult.
Yeah.
It's like you need therapy. It's like an insult, right? So yeah.
So, Tabitha Brown has a saying that I adopt, that I often say, like, have a good day. And if you cannot, do not go around ruining somebody else's day, right? So
Yeah.
if you cannot have a good day, keep it to yourself. Don't go spreading it around to other people. I think I think sometimes it's the way that we say go to therapy to people, right? So if I am having an argument, like a heated argument with you, and my comeback is you need therapy,
Yeah.
that you really wanted to insult me.
Yeah.
Like,
Hmm.
that is the context. We are saying things to get at each other, and you think going to therapy is going to get at
Hmm.
me, right? So I think
Yeah.
place and time and context is very, very important, right? If you care about somebody, of course, not in public, it's where like, oh, you are depressed, go and see. Come on. Like, if you care about somebody, but you haven't called them, you don't know what they are going through, but all of a sudden you know that they are depressed and they should go see a therapist, like they are going to be upset
Yeah.
with you, right? There are people that we see on the internet that I could be like, you need therapy, but I'm not going to go and tell them, hey, maybe you should go to therapy,
Hmm.
because I don't know you, right?
Yeah.
It's not my place to
Hmm.
say it, right? So again, if you are close to the person, of course, you can have that conversation with them, like, hey, maybe things have changed, right? Before we used to go out every weekend, but now it looks like each time you are sleeping more. I read, sometimes I'll be like, I could be going crazy or I could be making up stuff, but I read things about depression, and I think maybe you need to talk to somebody, or do you want to, is there something going on, or just let me know if my observations are wrong,
Yeah.
right? Like, you are coming from a very concerning place. This is somebody that you have a relationship with, that you talk to them, that you know them, that if things have changed, you would know that things have changed, right? Or
Yeah.
maybe, hey, you've been really down, maybe since you lost your job, maybe I think it's time to talk to somebody, right? And, or hey, maybe I know you're going through a difficult time. I cannot I cannot give you the full support that you need. I think maybe it's time to maybe talk to a doctor or talk to somebody so that they can support you. Or sometimes you can even, if somebody is depressed and they don't have a relationship with a therapist, they cannot. That's not the time for them to go look for a therapist.
Hmm.
So you can do the legwork for them, that um maybe I know you have this insurance, or can you give me your insurance? I will search
Call
for,
around and see if I can find a
yeah,
therapist for you.
all around, find places, get information, find dates for appointment for you. Or if it's in person, I will drive you to the first few appointments, or whatever the appointment is. I will
Mhm.
drive you there, or I will take you there, right?
Yeah.
So that way, you see, you're helping them with the process, and it's not like it's a youth and you go and do it and get better
Right.
because.
But you keep saying it's like every day you come and you're saying you are depressed, you should go to therapy, you're depressed, you should go to the therapist,
Mhm,
but you're not doing anything practical to help them
mhm.
move the needle.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Once again, if it's somebody you don't care about, you probably done your job by suggesting that they should go to therapy, right? But if it's somebody that you care about, then we are
Yeah.
recommending that you maybe help
Mhm,
them with a few steps
mhm.
along the way. Yeah.
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 If it's somebody you don't care about, just mind your
Mind
own
your
business.
business.
Like, also, if it's somebody that maybe you're not that close to, or you have somebody that's close to them, sometimes I would just be like, hey, you are close to this person, and maybe I'm a bit concerned about their behavior. So can you go and check in on them, or can you go and talk to them? Or you are close to this person and this is what I'm observing. Can you just go and talk to them? Right. So again, you are not like overstepping your boundaries, but you are talking to somebody, right?
Hmm.
And if it's like you said, if it's somebody you don't care about, social media is not a place where you would come and announce that somebody has depression,
Yeah.
or somebody have mental illness. Mental illness is not an insult, right? So we are
Right.
trying to
Mm.
break the stigma. So if you're arguing with somebody and you insult them with the trauma, and that fuels the stigma.
Right. Like,
um
you, as for you, we all know you are traumatized. That's why you are bitter.
yeah,
That's why you are acting like this.
yeah,
Like, yeah.
yeah. I mean, if you say that to me, I'll be more traumatized and I'll be more bitter and I will punch you in the face. Then you would know that,
Calm
oh,
down.
I'm, I'm really traumatized. Right? So it's not the place, right? Therapy is
Mm.
not punishment, right?
Yeah.
So I think we also have to think about it, especially as parents, using therapy as a punishment. If you
Mhm.
don't do this, I'm gonna take you to
Take you to
therapy.
therapy, right? You know,
Yeah.
yeah, or the people who take their kids to therapy for the therapist to fix them. Like you won't do anything, on your end or even at
Yeah.
home. Then they'll come and
Yeah.
complain to the therapist, like this is what she did in the course of the week.
Yeah.
Talk to her. It's
Tell
like,
her to change.
you know, yeah, yeah. So yeah, those are all I think many of the patterns in our community that aren't healthy. And one of the
Hmm.
difficulties that I have with our community sometimes is because we've been doing it a long time, we think it's okay or it's good or there's a way to go, right?
Hmm.
So when we share some of these things that we should do differently or some of the things that we should try to incorporate into our systems, people will say things like, well, but that's not how we do things, or well, that's
Hmm.
different, or like most people don't do it that way.
Hmm.
Yeah, but because
Hmm.
most people don't have the skill sets, right? So those of
Hmm.
us that have the skill set and have the experience, if we're telling you, hopefully you can take it in good faith, right? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so please, those of you, especially if you come into our spaces and you watch our podcast and stuff like that, please be open-minded and take some of these things that we talk about to heart, right? So if we're telling you, for example, that the tough love mantra that we've all grown up with, where we're breaking people down, we're telling people the hard truths because that's what will make them change. If we're telling you that that way doesn't work,
Hmm.
we need you to be open to trying something different,
Different, right?
instead of digging your heels in. All right. Yeah. So yeah, those are some ideas on how to help other people who are dealing with, mental health difficulties. Um, but if it's you who is dealing with it, right? Could be depression, could be anxiety, I think those are the more common ones that most people in our spaces tend to quote unquote start
Hmm.
with, you know.
Hmm.
Um, if well, I guess first off, let me talk about what those can look like, right? So things like what in our spaces or in the diaspora we mention as depression or major depressive disorder is what in our spaces would look like you've been more down or you've been more sad or you've been more isolated. Like every day you're in your own corner.
Hmm.
You used to be somebody who was very
Yeah.
bubbly and lively, but for the last 6 months you've been isolated. You don't come around people. You're always in your own
Yeah.
corner. The things you used to enjoy these days, it doesn't even, it's not even enjoyable to you anymore.
Hmm.
Your job, like it's almost like work, home, and even at work, your productivity has significantly reduced because you don't have the
Hmm.
energy, you don't have the motivation, you know, your sleep is messed up. You're either sleeping too much or you're sleeping too little. You have either no
Yeah.
appetite or you're eating too much. Like when you see significant changes that bring your overall quality of life down, you're likely dealing with something, right? Could be depression, like we just talked about, could be anxiety when it's more along the lines of significant worry about things that are so far out in the future that your worry doesn't necessarily help anything with it. You're probably dealing with stuff like that. If you have access to therapists or psychiatrists or even a primary care physician, of course, talk to them.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
again, I do recognize that not everybody has the financial resources or access to these people. So I'll let you take a first stab at it as to some things that people can do on a day-to-day basis to
Hmm.
keep their mental health in a good place.
Yeah.
You know,
So, so for the people, let's say people in the US and maybe Europe, I don't know. If you have a full-time job, you should have insurance. Don't
so
skip
they
on
would
the
they would
insurance.
offer it to you, right? But you have to take it and pay the premiums to have it. I know many people who, yeah, the job offers insurance, but the premiums are too expensive, so they don't
So
take it.
they opt out of it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So if you have a full-time job and they offer you the insurance, please take
take
it.
it.
Right?
Hmm.
It's very important that you take it. And then also if you have a full-time job, most companies have EAP, right? That's the
Employee
employee.
assistance programs.
Yes. And they provide like a certain number of sessions for free. And that would be like, so it's not free. The company pays
Free
for it.
score.
So it's not like
Coming out of your
free.
pocket.
So that, yeah. So the company will pay for it. And sometimes it could be three, it could be two, it could be eight. That could be like your little trial with therapy. Then you get to decide. And most of the time, the person that you do the EAP with it is very likely that they take your company's
Insurance.
insurance. Yeah.
Mhm.
You may have a copay, right? If you have private insurance, depending on your deductible, depending on the plan, you may have a copay, you may have a deductible, you may have a co-insurance, but it's very important. So there are a lot of therapists that take insurance, but if you take this step, you will. So the other thing is also, do not wait for something bad to happen before you're like, oh, now let me go get my coping skills in, or that.
Yeah.
Then it's like, so it's like your barrel is already low,
Empty.
empty, right? So that means you have to pour a lot to get to a certain level. Versus if you are if you are already at a certain level, that means you may need just a little bit to pour it, right?
Mhm.
So that means that maybe you are at a level where you are very self-aware. You are like, I know when to ask for help, right? You've built a very supportive community around you that when something happens, you're like, oh, okay, this is that. My friend, this is very knowledgeable in this, so let me call them and let's figure it out, right? Or just let me call my friend and talk to my friend. Even if they cannot help, they can still listen. So you already have it versus now you don't know how to ask for help. So now you have to struggle, you have to learn how to ask for help. So you see how much it would take a lot of energy from you. So do not wait for
And so you're
something
in
bad
crisis.
to,
Mhm.
yeah, to happen before you do. I think that I think in our Ghanaian community, we lack is really build your network, right? Invest into relationships. Really invest into good relationships.
And
And
into the men, invest in relationships that don't involve sex. Like it's not everybody who's, like a connection that has to be somebody you want to sleep with. Like build
no.
friendships that you can like help provide companionship, help provide
Hmm.
a
Yeah.
space, to just maybe emote and talk. A friend that you can just go watch games with, a friend that you can go to a
Mhm.
concert with. Like it not be everybody that should be. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's, and because our community just operates on the fact that we have all experienced some kind of trauma, so we are all paranoid of friends. So it may take you a while to find
The right
people because,
circle.
yeah, because we may all not have the skills to build that. So if you get burned by the first friend, do not be like, oh, you see, that's why I don't make
Mhm.
friends. Take time, recover, go back into it, right? So really, really, really nurture your friendships, nurture your relationships, right? Do not go into a relationship thinking, oh, I'm going to record you so that if in case one day we fall out, I would have something to say. You
The
already
relationship
have
is
your
over
plan.
before you started. Yeah.
Yeah, you already have your plan. So what are you expecting, right? Versus I am going into this. These are the strengths that I have. This is how I can add on to this person's life. And this is how we can be in community together. I am here to make their life better, right? I am here so that we can be in community with people. So really nurture that. And like Dr. Lewis said, how we have put wife and husbands and girlfriends on a pedestal, I think we need to bring it down a little bit. Or if not, make it the same as all other relationship because we
They,
pursue.
they they won't do that. Let's not even let's not even bother. They won't do it. They won't do it. So maybe we can bring the people, the relationships that we put here, let's bring it up small. Like I think we put way too much effort into
Exactly. We
into
pursue
intimate
that a
partner
lot.
relationships and leave out,
Yeah.
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 And
Because
even some people
there
even will
is
get
always,
married. Some people will get married and then like every other friendship or every other relationship that they had before
that's
like
it.
falls down,
Yeah.
they lose that. Yeah.
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 So yeah, and we will prepare, oh, I'm going to learn how to cook so that I'll be a better wife and all of those things. But you never hear somebody say, oh, maybe I'm going to therapy to be a better friend, right? I'm going to therapy to learn the skills to be a friend to somebody else, to learn how to be a friend, to learn how to be in community with people. So I think it's really, really important because again, what even if you get married, right? Sometimes you need a buffer, right? The person that you marry to, they could be the one causing you the stress. So
Who do
are
you
you
talk
going
to?
to talk
Yeah.
about the person who is causing you the stress, right?
Hmm.
So it's important. So definitely like mental health, like we started with, it's not something that's up here. It's about your life. So try and do something little every day. Something little
Yeah.
every day. Something you incorporate it becomes a lifestyle for you where it's not like, oh, I have to do this, then I have to take a break to go take care of my mental health.
Yeah,
But
it's just part of it.
your life is structured that it becomes a lifestyle for you. Like, oh, I have to make sure I'm getting enough sleep. I have to make sure I'm getting enough physical activities. I have to be cautious of the environment that I'm in. I have to be cautious of what I am taking in. Like, it becomes a thing that you do every day that you don't have to take a break from your life and go and do
To go
mental
take
health
care of. Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's, I mean, you've touched on all of the things that I have on my list, right? And I like to make a point about if you can't afford therapy or if, because I think there's so many people that the financial barrier would remove therapy from the picture for them. Like it's a
Hmm.
legitimate thing out there in our community.
Yeah.
So I think a good few things to start is what you talked about, watch and improve your sleep. You understand? We will grind and grind and grind and work 16-hour days. And when we come home to be on TikTok small. So most days you're getting 5 hours of sleep. And then
Yeah.
you are
And
work
even
you're
argue with people on TikTok, then all
and
your
you're concerned
energy.
and you're concerned why you are anxious or even depressed or you're easily angered, right? Because your mental health isn't where it needs to be because you're sleep deprived. I mean, you're sleep deprived. So we have to watch and improve our sleep. We have to do better with our eating habits. The people that eat too, like junk food and they eat too much, and the people that other people too, it's like they don't eat enough. So they wake up and they won't
Mhm.
eat anything until like 3. And between like 12 and 2, if you talk to them, then they're angry. You are hungry,
Mhm.
you are hungry. Go and get some food. Yeah, so we have
Yeah,
to
go and
watch our
eat.
eating habits too. And we have to watch our exercise habits. And this does not mean like everybody has to get a gym membership or anything, but
No.
a lot of the feel good hormones in our bodies produced or increased by movement. So if you're
Mhm.
somebody who your job is mainly like you're sitting behind a desk or your responsibilities are typically like limited in like where you move around, it's important to put things like walks into your lifestyle, and stuff like that so that it would help improve those feel good hormones. And again, one other thing that Alice mentioned is huge. Surround yourself with good people, right? I think one of the things that hasn't been helpful for our community, the proverbs, Abobi Bekawe Tumem, uh, like there are so many, proverbs that are about friendships going bad. And so many people don't want to even venture, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
but Alice, I do not have one bad friendship story. I don't know if I've just been lucky or I'm just naive. I don't know one person that I look back and
I
say, oh,
don't.
this
I
person was a
don't.
bad friend. Many of the relationships that I don't have anymore is distance. Like I moved from Ghana, and so then we're not as close
Mhm.
anymore, or we realized that at some point we don't share the same values, and we you know
Yeah.
we came apart.
And
But it's the
it's
like
not a
this
big
person,
deal.
this
Yeah.
person did this to me. I told this person my deepest secret, and I heard it here. Sometimes before you realize you yourself, you told the other person, but you don't remember. But you heard it somewhere else,
I'm
and you think
telling
it's your
you,
friend that went to tell them when
the way
you
people
probably
tell
had.
their business on social media, I'm like, you are.
Yeah. And then you go and complain to somebody else. You go and accuse somebody else of being the one to share because you think you shared it to just that one person. So I think we've given friendship such a bad rap that most people have gone to the extreme. Again, as a society, we are horrible with balance. So I think those proverbs are supposed to help us be more careful in how we choose our friends. But people have gone to the extremes where they're like, yeah, me near downfall, like I don't make friends. Like I
Mhm.
won't even do that, right? But we need to come to the middle ground because those relationships are important as well. you know,
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, sometimes you don't even need to be telling people your life history. Sometimes you just
No.
need somebody else to distract you from the problem that you're going through right now.
Yeah.
And that may mean somebody that you watch games with, or somebody you just a little bit with, you know, like so please surround yourself with good people. And for that to happen, it means that you have to be a good friend too.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
can't be
Yes.
toxic and expect that the people around you will be healthy friendships and
Yeah.
relationships, right?
That's
So
that's being unfair to the people because you are not, in a way, you're not bringing anything to the
yeah,
friendship, but you
you want
expect.
them. Yeah. So yeah, I think we've covered quite a few things that hopefully helps people out there with their mental health for May and beyond. You know,
Yeah.
so please, please, please take care of yourself. Any final remarks before we round up for this episode?
Yeah. Let
Oh,
us
you
know
can
your
speak on your
question.
services.
Oh
Do you want to
my
speak on
word.
your services, your global services that are coming up?
Oh, okay. I offer coaching services to global clients. So you can be anywhere. It's virtual, so anywhere in the world. All the links will be in the bio, will be on the platform wherever you go. You can always have access to the links. You send an inquiry, I will get back to you, and then we will go from there. Send us your questions. If you have any questions, if you have any specific topics that you want us to get more into, send it and we will take a look at it.
All right. Yep. So please, please, please take care of yourself, take care of your mental health, make it a habit so that, you know, you don't ever need to take care of your mental health, right? I think if you make it a habit, you may
Hmm.
never need to
To
take care
take
of it,
time off.
like off to go
Yeah.
do it, right? Yep.
Yeah.
So we will see you on the next episode.
Yes.
Peace. Subscribe to this YouTube, and we'll see you on the next episode.